The most important lesson that I gained under extreme duress. Um, Guys, the last video I did, I asked for comments and asked you guys to chime in and tell me what you wanted me to do a video on. And there's a bunch of different topics that came up, one of which was about one of the lessons that I gained through extreme, I think he said duress, but I think he meant stress. So that's what I'm going to do this video on. The biggest lesson that I learned under extreme stress. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm going to be vulnerable with you guys. I'm going to be transparent with you guys. Okay. You guys are getting to know me, right? And some of you guys have known me for a little while. I'll even just take these off for a minute. All right. I have my glasses on because I'm having a day. And I'm fucking beat the hell down, guys. All right. So I made a commitment, though. And that commitment was to do videos for you guys a minimum of 3 days a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I had one slip up. Well, my commitment is 3 videos a week. The perfect plan is to get them out on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I had a slip up one day when I was traveling. I got the video out on I think it was a Saturday instead of a Friday. But either way, I've been following through on what I said I was going to do. Like, there's a lot of these people out there in the world that you can't really trust because they're not who they pretend to be. And so my goal is to always be who I appear to be, to be my best self. And that's what this ties into today's message because stress shows up differently for all of us, okay? Sometimes when you're stressed out, people eat. They overeat. Sometimes when people are stressed out, they say fuck it and they cheat. That's a thing. Being stressed out with the person that you're with, saying fuck it, I'm just going to go do my own thing and chase my impulses, my selfish desires. I'm going to break my faithfulness. I've done that shit, and when I was younger, man, one of the biggest things I did for my integrity was be faithful. And one of the biggest things I did for my self-image was start being faithful. And but let me pull this back and talk about stress. Sometimes when people are stressed, they sleep. Let me just sleep it off. Sometimes when they're stressed, they just watch TV or they choose to, jump on social media. And there's a lot of different forms of stress. When I was in the 75th Ranger Regiment, because that's what this guy was asking about, that's what he was asking about. I did this training mission where we flew in by a helicopter. If you guys don't know, in the Rangers, you do a lot of high-value target raids. You do capture-kill missions against enemies that are inside of buildings, and you sneak in at night, and you either capture them or they end up getting killed. So we were doing this training mission, and we were preparing for a deployment. I was a Ranger platoon leader, which means I was the officer in charge of my Ranger platoon. I had my platoon sergeant, and we were doing a lot of missions back to back to back to back, all part of this training exercise called Task Force Training. This is where the Rangers team up with other special operations units. Sometimes, we basically prepare to go deploy, and we bring in other operators that we may deploy with or work alongside. So we end up doing this training exercise, and it's all internally created. So the Rangers create these scenarios for each other. We have a headquarters, a staff inside of the Ranger Battalion, who those officers create a plan and a scenario for us Rangers on the ground, us on the line, to execute. The scenario that they created was for us to fly into this training site up in Washington, JBLM, and to walk in. I think it was like 5K, like 3 miles or something like that, and go clear this compound. Well, when we got in there, this was like the worst case scenario that you could imagine. So it was nighttime. There were multiple fighters inside. There was a barricaded shooter. When we started clearing the compound, one guy even took off and ran from the building. So he was called a squirter. We had to send a team after him. So what ended up happening was we do this mission, and I'm the officer responsible for this task force. And you can imagine the pressure. Because if I fail at this training mission, there's no way in hell I'm going overseas. Okay? And the scenario that they built was like the worst scenario that you could possibly imagine. A barricaded shooter inside of a building shooting U.S. forces with simulation rounds. You know, this scenario, what ended up happening was we go to clear the compound. We set in our isolation position. An isolation position means you block off pretty much the enemy, the people, the things that could bother the objective while you're on it. So we put an isolation team over here to the right and over here to the left. We're set in, and now we're going to send the ground force in, set in containment, and set in our support by fire, and we're going through that sequence. So isolation position set, support by fire set, containment moving in to get set, and then the clearance force moving in behind all of them. Well, as we start clearing, we were clearing in a counterclockwise direction. My platoon sergeant was leading the front team, the front squad. And as he was maneuvering through the compound, they get into a simulated fight, and that's when the barricade shooter started opening up on the team that was going through. He wipes out a bunch of people, okay? And it gets messy, gets crazy. Then we have the squirter who had ran from the building. He's taken off, and I'm over here feeling like I'm losing control of everything because I got multiple teams that are in fights, and I'm trying to figure out who the fuck I can send to cover down for the team that is in the fight in the compound. And I'm trying to figure out if I should send somebody to go get the guy that ran. And I'm also trying to paint the picture to my boss so that he understands what's going on through the radio. And anyway, so this whole thing just keeps getting more messy. And it's like, Jeremiah, you got to make a decision. Jeremiah, you got to make a decision. You got to make one. And all I wanted to do was fucking crawl up into a little, fetal position and just say, fuck this, I'm out. But, you don't have that option. So you perform. You rise up, you step up, and you go. And I remember thinking, this scenario is so crazy. Our friendly forces, we're down 6 friendly forces. We have a squirter that's over here. There was other shit that was going on in the compound too. I think we had, it wasn't just the barricaded shooter. It was multiple fights inside of this compound were happening. And if I recall correctly, there was 3 to 5 different places on the battlefield where I had troops in contact. And it was everybody was fighting and going a different direction, it felt like. And I had to figure out how the fuck to consolidate everybody, how to organize everybody, and get us back in an organized fighting unit. But anyways, so just picture you're in charge of it's like playing a game of chess, and all your pieces are moving at the same fucking time, and you're the one supposed to be telling everybody where to move and when, but they're all moving on their own. You're like, fuck. And they're doing that because they're all fighting. Okay, so what ended up happening was we ended up regaining some control. Each team that was in a fight cleared their objective, and then I got myself down to the barricaded shooter and took over a team, and then fought through that enemy. Next thing you know, all enemy forces are dead. We're consolidating friendly forces, and then it's my time. And I need to. I'm supposed to send up a fucking ground force commander report. So I sit down, and I'm so stressed out. And there's a timeline on this. The boss is waiting for the report, and I'm trying to put together the fucking report to tell the boss what happened on the ground. And I'm stuttering. I'm stammering. I'm not as I'm reporting how many weapons we found, how many guys were killed, how many friendly and enemy were wounded. and my numbers aren't exact, they're off. I'm miscounting bodies, and I remember just being so stressed out that, again, I just wanted to fucking quit. But I just kept performing. I kept rising up, and I kept like just trying to figure it out. And my point with all of this is that training mission, when I got overseas and I deployed with the Rangers, a scenario much like that training mission happened. Okay? And the training mission was stressful. The real life scenario was very stressful. But I remember thinking during the real life scenario where we had a real barricaded shooter, we were in a real gunfight, we had real friendlies wounded, people bleeding. I remember thinking when we got overseas, thank God we trained for that worst case scenario. Because it wasn't pretty when we got overseas and we did that mission, but everybody got out alive. And this comes to my point about the biggest lesson that I learned during times of high stress is that you show up how you train. When it comes to stress, you rise to the level of your training. You fall to the level of your standards. Like, if you don't have training and you don't have, if you haven't practiced working through that stressful time, if you don't establish standards that get you through that difficult time, you're not going to get through it. Because during the stressful time, you will rise to the level of your training and you will fall to the level of your standard. The standard is on a difficult day, on a stressful day, do you show up? For us during those firefights, the training one and the real one, our standard was to cover down on each other. If somebody got hurt, we would step up. Our standard was that we don't run, we don't fucking retreat. Our standard was there is no such thing as fucking quitting. And then our training, that the training simulation, the scenario that we did, during that training scenario, we practice one person stepping up and taking care of the next one. We practice a key leader going down and another key leader stepping up. We practice going through the steps that we would have to take during the worst case scenario. And so when we got overseas, that's exactly what we did when stress hit. We rose to the level of our training and we fell to the level of our standard. Now, I don't know if that's actually like the saying that gets tossed around. I know there is a saying like that people throw around. You don't rise to the, I can't remember what they say, but to me, that's the biggest lesson right now, is that is exactly what we did. We rose up and we trained and we did exactly what we were trained to do. And then at a minimum, the minimum thing that we did during those stressful times was that we maintained our standards. So today's video, I hope it was coherent. I hope it was clear because, guys, I'm fucked up today. I'm completely out of it. I did not want to do this damn video. This is another one where I was just like, dude, I have so much other shit going on. I don't have time for this shit. But, what I've learned over the years is that one of my standards is that I show up to serve you guys regardless of how I feel. And that's why I can't stop coaching. That's why I can't stop the business. I can't ever stop because of days like today. I see it. I want to fucking quit, and I'm like, fuck this. I got to show up. I got to do the damn video. And who knows? Maybe it gets 60 views. Maybe it gets a fucking 1,000 views. Maybe it gets 5,000, 10,000 views. I think my biggest video got 10,000. But I don't even give a shit. I don't care where it falls. I don't care how many views it gets. What I care is that I show up and I give you guys something that helps you today. Because when I was in your spot, when things were even worse for me, that's what I wanted. I needed that little freaking thing to help me keep going. So appreciate you guys that gave me feedback on the last video on what to post. This is a little bit longer of a video. And closing it out, what I'll say is that you have to practice operating in the area of stress that you want to thrive in. If you want to succeed in life, if you want to succeed in your job and your business and in the military, you have to practice showing up where you're stressed the fuck out. You have to practice, you have to train in that space. If you teach yourself to run from the stress, if you teach yourself to hide from the stress, to eat when you're stressed, to compromise on your commitments when you're stressed, you're never going to grow into the person that pulls off the level of success that you want. That's the whole point of your goals. I say it over and over again. The purpose of your goals is to grow, not to succeed. So that's the biggest lesson I learned during stress, is that you rise to the level of your training and you fall to the level of your standard. So train for times whenever you have that stressful time ahead. That's your opportunity. Like for me right now, this is my opportunity to train when I'm stressed the fuck out, when I got other shit going on. This is my opportunity to turn into the next best version of me. I love you guys. If you like this video, fucking give me some love down below. Tell me your thoughts on this video. What did it help you with? And I appreciate you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Conquer all.